his extreme crew, they want to have a national abortion ban. They're not happy with people having to go to Illinois. They want people to get a passport and have to go to Canada.
Welcome back to America Decides. That was 2 years ago. That was a senatorial debate between J.D. Vance and Democrat Tim Ryan. So what you just heard, would that be possibly coming attractions for tomorrow night's debate? Well, we're going to talk about that with our political panel. Joining me here at the table, Laura Davison and Gram Slattery. Laura is politics editor for Bloomberg. Gram is a national politics reporter for Reuters. Laura, starting with you, what are you expecting tomorrow night?
So the first rule for both candidates is to do no harm.
Exactly.
That is really the goal for both of them to come out of this unscathed. For Walz, this is really his opportunity to introduce himself to the public. He was Minnesota governor. He did a lot there on the economic front, some things that Democrats have tried to do on the national scale but haven't succeeded, things like paid family leave and expansion of a child tax credit, things that are very popular with a broad swath of the voters. So expect that to come up. For Vance, he will really be playing to an audience of one. Trump, he was selected to be on this ticket because he is really good on TV. He does know how to debate, so he's going to need to live up to that.
Graham, our CBS News polling shows those Republicans who identify themselves as MAGA Republicans like J.D. Vance on the ticket more than non-MAGA Republicans. Is he speaking in addition to the audience of one, which everyone in the Trump world does, speaking to the base, or is he trying to find some way to accomplish what has yet eluded him, which is to pick up swing voters and nominally attached Republicans?
No, I don't think he's really going after swing voters, to be honest, at all. He's been an attack dog this entire campaign.
Fire up the base, fire up the base, fire up the base.
Not only that, but look, he does have some likability issues, but that's partially a function of the fact that his role in the campaign is to be an attack dog. And that's going to be what his role is going to be tomorrow night. You know, he's trying to poke holes in the narrative that Walz has been able to create for himself, which is that of a fundamentally nice, down-to-earth, upper Midwesterner that voters have found compelling so far. So he's trying to poke holes in that persona.
I want to play for you something that the former president said over this weekend that got some attention, but I don't think got nearly as much attention as it deserved. Let's play it.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way.
Okay, the audience loves that. That is political jousting, but it is also a comprehensive insult to anyone in America with a disability of any kind. I don't understand the politics of that. I don't understand the rationality of it. I don't understand the humanity of it. And yet, here it is, part of the national conversation. Laura?
This is really a ramp up of the attacks on Harris's intelligence that we've seen. He's questioned her gender identity. He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned, made lots of comments that are sexist, as well as questioned her intelligence. And this is why you see, over the weekend, after these comments came out, Trump's own allies, Lindsey Graham, Tom Emmer, all said, look, this is not the kind of thing that we should be doing. However, Trump
a rare hot stove moment for Trumpist Republicans. Ouch, that's even a little too much for us, Graham.
Well, I mean, if you talk to his allies privately as well as publicly, if they lose in November, it'll be because of comments like this. You know, this is the weak point for his campaign. You know, at the same time, we're a few weeks out from the election, and there's a lot of people in Trump world who have sort of resigned themselves to this and said, you know, we tried to change Trump many times over the past 9 years. This is what we got, and we have to hope for the best.
Tomorrow night, do you expect reproductive rights to be a substantial part of the conversation, Laura, or a less substantial part of the conversation?
It has to be at least some part of the conversation.
Sure, it has
Both
to be
of
some,
them
right.
have had sort of their own brushes with sort of reproductive rights controversies. One, on Vance's side, he's gotten a little bit ahead of his boss on various occasions, saying,
right,
calling for a national abortion ban. This is an issue where the Republican ticket has the least trust among voters, really compared to any other issue. So again, this is, he needs to stay vague and, this do no harm. Trump has been all across the board and really just not wanting to talk about this issue. It's also possible that Walz could be asked about IVF. He ran into a little bit of controversy on saying that he and his wife used IVF to conceive a child. It wasn't exactly IVF. It was another fertility treatment, but that's, sort of been a little bit of a stain on his record.
And for this issue, Graham, in the swing states, but the nation broadly, it's our first presidential campaign since Roe versus Wade was overturned. That seems to me to be the biggest X factor we're all trying to assess. We can't assess it until the votes start being tabulated, but it seems like a very big X factor out there.
Yeah, it's a big X factor, and it's a big liability if you're Vance or the Trump campaign in general. I think if you're Vance, what you try and do is simply not talk about it that much, perhaps address it briefly, and then move on to a topic with which you have more voter trust.
Like immigration.
Precisely.
Let's pick that up. What are your expectations for that tomorrow night?
Well, you know, I think that this is going to be a topic that Vance really leans into, and perhaps in at times inflammatory ways, simply because this is an issue that voters trust the Trump-Vance ticket on. So if they can just create a national conversation about this topic and create sound bites about immigration rather than abortion, that's probably a net positive for them. So I expect them to really lean into this, including in inflammatory ways, perhaps bringing up Springfield or Charleroi, Pennsylvania.
Right. Laura, to what effect do you think this will have on the political future of J.D. Vance? Gram just said if they lose, it's always possible to lose. They don't think they're going to lose. But if they do lose, how much of this debate going to be a part of what J.D. Vance carries into the post-Trump conversation?
This is going to be pretty big. This is probably one of the biggest audiences J.D. Vance is ever going to have. You know, at least to this point in his career, this says, you know, only one of two presidential debates that's happening this cycle. So there will be a lot of people paying attention to this, particularly before they go in the voting booths. When Trump picked him back in July, he was effectively picking his heir apparent. If Trump loses, you know, Vance's political future is really uncertain. He's only 40 years old. He clearly wants to have a future in politics. But, you know, if he's part of this losing ticket, and especially if the Republican Party shifts after this, he may not find a place for himself in national politics.
Laura Davison, Gram Slattery, thank you very much for your time and expertise.